The text came on a Wednesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports for Meridian Hospitality Group, my event venue and restaurant management company. Lisa, I've made my decision about the wedding. Don't bother coming. Rachel and I don't want failures. They're bringing down the mood. This is our perfect day and we can't have you ruining it with your negative energy. David. I stared at the message for a moment, then opened my laptop and pulled up our booking system. Peterson Collins wedding, Saturday, June 15th. Riverside Manor, our flagship venue. Full service package including catering, flowers, photography coordination and bridal suite. Total cost, $45,000. My brother David, who had just uninvited me from his wedding, had unknowingly booked his perfect day at a venue I owned. The irony was almost too perfect. I called my event manager, Patricia, who had been handling the Peterson wedding details. Good afternoon, Lisa. How can I help you? Patricia, I need to discuss the Peterson wedding scheduled for this Saturday. Of course. Everything is progressing beautifully. The bride is thrilled with the floral arrangements, and the catering team has finalized the menu. Is there something specific you needed to address? I need you to cancel the booking. There was silence on the other end. Cancel it? Please, it's Wednesday. The wedding is in 3 days. I understand the timing, Patricia. Lisa, this is a $45,000 booking. The flowers have been ordered, the catering is prepared, the staff is scheduled. Patricia, I'll cover any costs we can't recover. But I want the Peterson wedding cancelled immediately. May I ask why? Has there been a payment issue? It's a personal matter. Please call David Peterson and inform him that Riverside Manor is no longer available for his wedding. Lisa, this is going to create enormous problems for them. Finding a venue 3 days before a wedding is nearly impossible. I'm sure they'll figure something out. After I hung up, I sat back in my office chair looking out at the grounds of Riverside Manor. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. For 2 years, David had been planning his dream wedding, while simultaneously making it clear that his sister wasn't successful enough to be part of his new life. David was a marketing manager at a mid-sized firm, engaged to Rachel, a dental hygienist. They were solid middle-class professionals who had spent months bragging about their elaborate wedding plans and their rise in social status. What they didn't know was that their failure sister owned a hospitality empire worth over $30 million. Meridian Hospitality Group had started 8 years ago when I purchased a failing restaurant with money I'd made from selling my first tech startup. 1 restaurant became 3, then I expanded into catering, then event venues. We now own 12 restaurants and 6 event venues across the state. But to my family, I was just Lisa who worked in restaurants and never settled down. They had no idea that I employed over 300 people and that my venues hosted some of the most exclusive events in the region. My phone rang 15 minutes later. David's number. Lisa. Lisa, something terrible has happened. What's wrong, David? The wedding venue canceled on us. 3 days before the wedding. Oh no, that's awful. Which venue? Riverside Manor. We put down a $10,000 deposit, planned everything around this location, and now they're saying they can't accommodate us. Did they give you a reason? Some bullshit about scheduling conflicts. Lisa, we have 150 guests coming from out of state. The invitations specified Riverside Manor. We can't just move the wedding. That does sound like a difficult situation. Lisa, you work in restaurants, right? Do you know anyone in the event business who might have availability this Saturday? I paused. David, let me understand something. You texted me 3 hours ago saying you didn't want me at your wedding because I'm a failure. Now you're calling asking for my help. Lisa, this is an emergency. I'll deal with the wedding guest list later, but right now I need to find a venue. I see. So when you need something, I'm no longer too much of a failure to talk to. Lisa, don't make this about our family drama. My wedding is about to be ruined. Your perfect day, you mean? The one that would be ruined by having your failure sister there. Lisa, please. I'm desperate. David, I'm confused. If I'm such a failure, how would I be able to help you with your venue problem? Because you know people in the restaurant business. Maybe someone knows someone. I do know people in the restaurant business, David. But I'm not sure why you'd want help from a failure. Lisa, I'm sorry about the text, okay? I was stressed about wedding planning and I said things I didn't mean. Which things didn't you mean? The part about me being a failure or the part about not wanting me there? Lisa. Because those seem like two separate issues, David. Look, we can discuss the guest list after we solve the venue crisis. Right now I just need options. Options? From your failure sister. Lisa, will you help me or not? I looked out my office window at the wedding setup crew preparing the gardens for Saturday's now-cancelled event. David, let me make some calls and see what I can find out. Thank you. Lisa, you're a lifesaver. After hanging up, I called Patricia back. Patricia, the Peterson family will probably be calling other venues desperately looking for Saturday availability. I imagine so. Lisa, are you sure about this decision? They seem like a nice couple and the bride was so excited. Patricia, they'll find somewhere. Can you compile a list of venues that might have last-minute availability? Most reputable venues book months or years in advance, but I can reach out to some smaller locations that might accommodate them. Perfect. And Patricia? When they call here asking to reinstate their booking, the answer is no. We're fully committed to other events. Understood. An hour later, my phone was buzzing with texts from various family members who had apparently heard about the venue crisis. Mom, Lisa, David told me about the wedding venue problem. This is terrible. Can you help them find somewhere else? Kevin, my younger brother, heard about David's wedding disaster. Know any event people who might help? Aunt Margaret. Lisa, your brother is devastated about the venue cancellation. Family needs to stick together in times like this. I found it fascinating how quickly I'd gone from failure who would ruin the perfect day, to family member who should help in times of crisis. David called again that evening. Lisa, I've been calling venues all day. Everything decent is booked. The few places that have availability are either way out of our budget or completely inappropriate for the kind of wedding we planned. That sounds stressful. Lisa, this is a disaster. Rachel is crying. Her parents flew in from California. We have relatives coming from 12 different states. I'm sorry to hear that, David. Lisa, I need to ask you something and please don't take this the wrong way. What's that? Do you think there's any way Riverside Manor might reconsider? I mean, if we offered more money or agreed to different terms. I don't know, David. Why don't you call them and ask? I did call them. 3 times. They keep saying the decision is final and they can't discuss it further. Lisa, you don't think this has anything to do with our text conversation earlier, do you? What do you mean? I mean, it's just a weird coincidence that they canceled right after we had that disagreement. David, do you think I somehow convinced a high-end event venue to cancel your $45,000 wedding because you hurt my feelings? When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. It does sound ridiculous. You're right. I'm just stressed and looking for explanations. David, can I ask you something? Sure. What do you actually think I do for work? You work in restaurants, right? Like management or something? Something like that. Lisa, why are you asking? Just curious how you see my career. Look, I know you work hard and I'm sure you're good at what you do. But Lisa, you have to admit that your lifestyle isn't exactly traditional. How so? You're 32, you live alone, you work all the time, you don't have a family. And that makes me a failure? That's not what I meant. David, what did you mean when you called me a failure in your text? David was quiet for a moment. Lisa, I was stressed. Wedding planning is crazy and Rachel's parents have been asking about family dynamics and what? And I guess I felt like having you at the wedding might raise questions about why you're still single, why you don't have a more conventional career, why you're different from the rest of us. Different how? Lisa, you know what I mean. Kevin is married with kids. I'm getting married. You're just doing your own thing. My own thing. Yeah. And that's fine. It's fine for you. But for my wedding, I wanted everything to look perfect. Traditional. Like we're a successful family. And I don't fit that image. Lisa, don't take it personally. David, you uninvited me from your wedding because I don't make your family look successful enough. How should I take that? Lisa. Let me ask you something else, David. If you found out I was more successful than you realized, would that change how you feel about having me at your wedding? What do you mean? I mean, if it turned out that my unconventional career was actually quite lucrative, would I suddenly be welcome at your perfect day? Lisa, that's a weird hypothetical question. Is it? Look, it doesn't matter how much money you make. The point is that you don't fit the family image we want to project. The family image. Lisa, Rachel's family is very traditional. Her father is a doctor, her mother is a teacher. They expect wedding guests to be, conventional. And I'm not conventional. Right. David, let me get this straight. You uninvited me because I'm not conventional enough for Rachel's family. But now you're asking for my help finding a venue because I work in the restaurant business. Yes. Do you see the contradiction there? What contradiction? You need my professional connections to solve your problem, but my profession isn't respectable enough for your wedding. David was quiet for a long moment. Lisa, I hadn't thought about it that way. No, I don't think you had. Thursday morning, David called again. He sounded desperate. Lisa, we found a place that might work, but it's a community center and it's nothing like what we planned. Rachel is devastated. I'm sorry to hear that. Lisa, I need to ask you directly. Do you have any connections at Riverside Manor? Any way you might be able to influence their decision? I smiled. Why do you ask that? Because I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about contradictions. And I realized that I don't actually know much about your work. Go on. I know you work in restaurants, but I don't know which restaurants or what your role is or... Lisa, are you more successful than I realized? What would make you think that? Because you live in that nice downtown loft, you drive a new car, you travel. And I just assumed you were scraping by because your work seems so different from traditional careers. Different from traditional careers. Lisa, please just tell me. Do you have connections that might help us? David, what if I told you that I don't just work in restaurants? What if I told you I own restaurants? Own them. Multiple restaurants. And event venues. Lisa, are you serious? What if I told you that the reason Riverside Manor canceled your wedding is because I asked them to? There was complete silence on the other end. Lisa, what if I told you that I own Riverside Manor, David? That's impossible. Is it? Lisa, you can't own Riverside Manor. That place is worth millions. It is worth millions. Several million, actually. Lisa, stop joking around. This isn't funny. I'm not joking, David. I own Meridian Hospitality Group. We own 12 restaurants and 6 event venues, including Riverside Manor. You're serious? I'm serious. Lisa, that means your failure sister canceled your perfect wedding because you didn't want failures bringing down the mood. Oh my God. Your failure sister who owns the venue you booked for your dream wedding. Lisa, I had no idea. Of course you didn't. Because you never asked about my work beyond assuming it wasn't impressive enough for your social circle. Lisa, please. We can fix this. Can we? Yes. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were so successful. David, I'm curious. Are you sorry because you hurt my feelings or because you found out I'm wealthier than you thought? Both. Lisa, I'm sorry I called you a failure. Are you sorry because it was mean or because it was inaccurate? Because it was both. So if I had actually been a failure, it would have been okay to uninvite me? No. That's not what I meant. David, what did you mean? I meant that I was wrong about everything. Wrong about your career, wrong about your success, wrong about uninviting you. And if you had been right about my career? If I really was struggling financially and living an unconventional life. David was quiet for a long time. Lisa, I think I would have been wrong then too. Why? Because you're my sister. And that should matter more than what kind of job you have or how much money you make. Should it? Yes. Lisa, can you forgive me? David, forgiveness and consequences are two different things. What does that mean? It means I can forgive you for being a snob, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give you back your venue. Lisa, please. We have 150 guests coming. Rachel will be humiliated. Rachel will be humiliated because her wedding venue was canceled, or because people will find out her future brother-in-law owns the venue and canceled it? Lisa. Because those are two different types of embarrassment, David. Lisa, what do you want me to do? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I understand. Do you? Because 3 days ago, you decided your sister wasn't good enough for your wedding. Today you're asking that same sister to save your wedding. Lisa, I was wrong. About what? About everything. About you being a failure, about you not fitting our family image, about uninviting you. And what changed your mind? Finding out how successful you are. So you only respect me now because I have money? No. That's not. Lisa, that's not what I meant. What did you mean? I meant that I should have respected you before I knew about your success. Why? Because you're my sister. David, I want to ask you something and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Okay. If I wasn't wealthy, if I really was struggling financially and living an unconventional life, would I still deserve to be at your wedding? David was quiet for a long time. Yes. Why? Because family is about more than money or social status. Is it? It should be. David, do you think Rachel's parents would judge me less harshly if they knew I owned the venue where their daughter was supposed to get married? Probably. And does that tell you anything about what kind of people they are? Lisa, I think I see your point. What's my point? That if people only respect you because of your wealth or status, then their respect isn't worth having. And that I was trying to manage other people's shallow opinions instead of standing up for my family. David, I want you to think about something. What? You're asking me to save your wedding. But 3 days ago you didn't want me at your wedding. What's changed? I found out you're successful. Right. So you want me to use my success to solve your problem, but 3 days ago, you thought my success wasn't impressive enough to share your celebration. Lisa, I was wrong. Were you wrong about me not being successful, or were you wrong about success determining someone's value as a family member? Both. David, here's what's going to happen. Okay. I'm going to reinstate your wedding at Riverside Manor. Really? Lisa, thank you so much. I'm not finished. Sorry. The wedding will go on as planned with one condition. What condition? I'm going to be there. As your sister. With a place at the family table. Of course. Lisa, of course you'll be there. And David. Yes. When people ask about your family, you're going to introduce me as your sister who you're proud of, regardless of what they think about my career or lifestyle. I will, Lisa. I promise. And if Rachel's parents or anyone else makes comments about me being different or unconventional, you're going to defend me. I will. As I am different, David. I chose to build businesses instead of following a traditional career path. I chose to focus on professional success instead of getting married and having kids in my 20s. And those choices don't make me less valuable as a family member. You're right. Lisa, I'm really sorry. David, one more thing. Anything. You're going to tell people that I own the venue. What? You spent months bragging about having your wedding at Riverside Manor. Now you get to brag about the fact that your sister owns it. Lisa, won't that be weird? Why would it be weird? Because people will wonder why I didn't mention it before. And what will you tell them? The truth. That I didn't know how successful you were because I never bothered to ask. Saturday arrived and the wedding was beautiful. Riverside Manor looked perfect, the weather was ideal and Rachel was radiant. But the best part was watching David introduce me to guests. This is my sister Lisa. She owns Meridian Hospitality Group. They own this venue and 11 restaurants. I'm incredibly proud of her. Rachel's father approached me during the cocktail hour. Lisa, David tells me you own this place? I do. It's spectacular. You should be very proud. Thank you. David mentioned that he didn't realize the extent of your success until recently. That must have been quite a surprise for the family. I smiled. It was a surprise because no one ever asked about my work in detail. They assumed that because my career path was unconventional, it wasn't successful. Well, clearly they were wrong. Dr. Collins, can I ask you something? Of course. If I didn't own this venue, if I really was just someone who worked in restaurants and lived an unconventional life, would that make me less worthy of respect as David's sister? He looked thoughtful. You know, Lisa, that's an excellent question. And I think the honest answer is that I might have made unfair assumptions. Most people do. But you're right to point it out. Success comes in many forms and family is about more than professional achievements. During the father of the groom's speech, David surprised everyone. I want to thank my sister Lisa, who not only provided this beautiful venue for our wedding, but who taught me an important lesson this week about family and respect. Lisa, I'm sorry it took me so long to realize that you were successful all along. not because of your business achievements, but because of who you are as a person. Thank you for saving our wedding, and more importantly, thank you for forgiving me for being an idiot." The crowd laughed and applauded, but I could see the sincerity in David's eyes. After the wedding, as the last guests were leaving, David found me on the terrace. "Lisa, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did you decide to reinstate the wedding?" "Because despite everything, you're my brother and I love you." "Even though I called you a failure?" "David, you called me a failure because you didn't understand what success looks like. That's ignorance, not malice." "And the lesson?" "The lesson is that next time someone in your family seems different or unconventional, maybe ask some questions before making assumptions about their value." "I will. Lisa, I promise I will." "Good. Because your sister who works in restaurants actually runs a $30 million hospitality empire. And she might be able to help you in ways you never imagined." "30 million? 30 million. Lisa, I'm an idiot." "Yes, David. But you're my idiot brother. And that's worth something too." 6 months later, David and Rachel asked me to cater their housewarming party. Not because they needed a favor, but because they wanted to show off their successful sister to their new neighbors. The best part? David introduced me by saying, "This is my sister Lisa. She owns the company that's catering tonight, but more importantly, she's the person who taught me that family is about supporting each other, not judging each other. Success isn't just about building a business empire. Sometimes it's about teaching the people you love to see you clearly, and giving them the chance to be better family members than they've been before." The wedding at Riverside Manor became legendary in our family, not because of how beautiful it was, but because it was the day David learned that his failure sister was actually the most successful person in the room. And I learned that sometimes the best way to teach someone your worth is to let them experience the consequences of not knowing it.